All right, welcome to patch note summary for the live letter 77, the second of the two live letters going into patch 6.4. Remember that every patch we get two live letters, sometimes three, occasionally even more, but always at least two. And the first one is a big overview of everything we can expect. The second zooms in a little more, shows off some gameplay. I did not predict that there would be any big surprises from this live letter. I thought that they would save any massive surprises for Fanfest because I thought all surprises at this point would be geared at 6.5 or leading into next expansion's changes. That is not, however, the case. The big change this time being around raid loot. I did, however, predict that maybe they would announce something like Eorzean Encyclopedia 3 if it was going to be available for Fanfest. There was no QVC this time, no real big new merch or anything like that. With the next live letter 78, taking place at Fanfest, probably July 29th, the second day of Fanfest. And so that will be after our patch date for patch 6.4, The Dark Throne, which is absolutely exactly as predicted on May 23rd. Remember that Savage is delayed by 1 week now in a much needed, much desired change. So that will put that at May 30th in patch 6.41 or however they end up numbering that. So let's get in and look at this. The trailers are up on all the sites. So depending on how spoilery you want this to be, the trailers are up over on YouTube if you want to watch their trailers. That's how it began. And after confirming that it would be Tuesday, May 23rd, and reminding us that those trailers are live, they dove in. Now, we do expect this to be a traditional main patch. Remember, we're going over everything in patch 6.4 and 6.45. So some of this will be still plenty of time away. We are getting our new MSQ quests here, and Tataru's Grand Endeavor continues. Tataru's Grand Endeavor is something that looks like it's going to be touching on the Werlit series, the trial series from Shadowbringers. If you have not done that, I'd recommend you do that first. May even be required, I don't know. And then we will be getting more Hildebrand, which will be coming in the half patch there and is tied to the Relic. There was a Dengeki article earlier this month that revealed that Yoshipi said that they have no intention of changing the Relic grind beyond the tomes. So I would expect that to be another 1,500 tome step. I know there's some frustration around that. Just remember that at least like the silver lining to this is, in theory, this is the Relic that would have been designed when they had to transition everything to work from home and try to keep the game as on time as possible. We only had one patch that was delayed during that time, which was drastically different than most game studios and publishers experienced. And I think that something like the Relic was likely the cost of that. So hopefully that's something that we can see change in the 7.x series. I don't think that there are people who haven't enjoyed Hildebrand. I just think that people hoped that maybe in addition to tomes, there'd been some other method that encouraged us to maybe go get involved in Criterion or Crystalline Conflict or something like that at a more direct degree. So I think I was hoping for a little bit more there. Now, every player who sees the live letter date can now predict these. That is because the Yoshipi is making light of the fact that every second live letter is almost exactly 11 days before the patch. So this is filmed on May 12th. Sure enough, and so that is how I'm predicting all these different patch dates and live letter dates. Is I basically go through and just count the days. It gets a little harder from 6.5 to the 0.0 because that does not follow the same thing. With our Relic updates, we will also be getting Relic updates to the Crystalline set for the Splendorous Tools, for any of you that have enjoyed that series over in the Crystarium. Nice little trip through the first. It's been great. And we will be getting our one new MSQ dungeon. The fact that it is an MSQ dungeon does mean it will have trust support enabled, and a new trial, the Voidcast Deus and its related Extreme. For anybody that wondered if Golbez would be now or would be maybe in the 0.5, now we know. Unreal progresses yet again, so now we're in Zervin. Yoshipi said this one's really interesting because he believes there are a lot of players who never cleared Zervin back when it was relevant. So that's exciting. The Raid series, this is when our item level takes a jump in the 0.0, 0.2, and 0.4 patch of each expansion, is wrapping up. We get 4 fights each time, so this will be Pandemonium 9 through 12, and their respective 9 through 12S 1 week later. Pandemonium is calling this Anabasos, will be this chapter, this section here. And 9 through 12 will have their normal and their savage. They showed us off P9, but he said he couldn't show anything about beyond that because He just thought it would be too spoilery, but he does hope that we enjoy it. There are some massive changes about loot that we will go over a bit later. With the 0.4 patch, it is time for our second entry into the variant and Criterion systems. We'll detail this a little bit more when they're ready to show some gameplay. But remember that back when they went over the roadmap for the next 10 years of the game, they did go over the fact that we would get 3 of these this expansion, a second one in the 0.4 cycle, and a third one in the 0.5 cycle. So far, just about everything has followed their roadmap to the letter. So I would expect there to be one more of these. This is Mount Rokkon. It is unrelated to the Sildine subterrane, so it is a new person, a new place. You do not have to have done anything tied to that, and it will come in all 3 difficulties, just like the other one. This is also when our duty support system continues to progress, with the goal of making sure that players can get all 4-man story content or solo content can be done as a single player. For any new player or anybody going back through New Game Plus, they can do that entirely. And so we are now supporting all the way from ARR to the beginning of Stormblood. This gets us all the way to level 70, and then there's a gap from everything that happens from 70 to going into Shadowbringers, where the trust system takes over. That is targeted at the 0.5 patch, and he hopes that will be ready for that. And so that will be the end of duty support, kind of supporting all that. They have talked about next expansion, maybe, possibly considering having the duty support system add 8-man support for the mandatory 8-man content, and then maybe considering the Crystal Tower as well, which would be the last remaining things to stop from somebody from trying the story of this game, like another Final Fantasy game, entirely single player. Keep in mind, that still keeps the vast majority of content in this game as a multiplayer experience. They're still not going to be able to experience extremes and savages and ultimates and PvP and all the stuff tied to the Golden Saucer. And like, there's just so much of this game that's multiplayer. So the goal is to be an invitation to people that want to come in, that don't want that pressure, want to be able to enjoy it at their own pace. Because people who like multiplayer games are already in, but to extend it to even more people, and maybe as they get invested in the story, they can hop in. I think the story should be done the same way. People who want to come in and enjoy all the multiplayer content and then realize, hey, I wish I knew a little more about this world. I think the New Game Plus system could do a better job of inviting story skippers to go in and do that. So that'll be really exciting that We're Lit that's happening. And yes, We're Lit is going with Tataru there. Now, job adjustments. They'll go over a little bit of these just as a theme, but they're not going to reveal those until the patch notes, which of course will release on the 22nd, going into the patch. Some PvP updates and some frontline adjustments. The frontline adjustments are large enough, we will go over those today. One of the things that they did not go over for this expansion is Blue Mage. Back at the media tour, there was an attendee that asked the staff in the Discord, and I was in there, about Blue Mage, and the staff said, there will be Blue Mage this expansion, but I don't think Yoshi-P has anything planned for this weekend's presentation about this. And we hadn't heard anything else, so I thought, well, maybe that's just like an offhand comment from an employee to a staff member. Like, that could be any level of reliability. That's all I've heard. I haven't heard anything else. So there is a real question of, like, are we, like, it's only been rumors and speculation. As far as are we getting Blue Mage, and here it is. It is coming in the half patch this expansion. This will of course raise our level cap 10 more levels, still not to current cap, never will be current cap is the plan. And that will add all sorts of new spells, new gear, new enemies to the Masked Carnival, new duties, all tied to things like Shadowbringers, like you see here in the corner. So for those of you that have been looking forward to Blue Mage, it's a great time to get into that between 0.45 and the next expansion. When people are looking for stuff to do, great time to get into that. If you've never gotten into it, it's very easy to level. The skills are the grind, and you can take that as you want. It is also time for another ocean fishing update. They have said they want to continue supporting this system, and they have done it. This one is taking us towards Kugane with an Authard one. And so that's a big departure from where we've been going to this point. Will be neat to catch some more fish tied to that. And we are getting some massive Island Sanctuary updates. We will see that in the gameplay previews here in a bit. As far as miscellaneous updates, it is time to move from causality to comedy. For anybody that has not followed how tomestones work, every even-numbered patch, 0.0, 0.2, 0.4, we take the existing tomestones and we slide everybody to the left. And so comedy slides in, not comedy in the typical ha-ha way, much more in like this kind of like Greek interpretation or whatever. And that will slide in, which will cause causality to slide to being uncapped. So you'll keep whatever causality you have. and then your astronomy will disappear, which will have ability to be converted before deleted. And then that also means that keep in mind that our Moogle Tombstone events are following that same order. So the last one was Mendacity, which means the next one was Genesis, because that's the order that our Battle Tombstones went in long ago. There will be Fairy Glamours now available to Scholars, as they went over in Part 1, the ability to select from Eos, Selene, or Carbuncle, and the maximum number of gear sets, for those of you who use lots of gear sets for things like Eureka or Ultimate or whatever, is jumping from 45 to 100. That doesn't mean you don't have an inventory management problem to keep that many items around, but at least the gear set portion is handled. This will be available to all characters right away. No unlock necessary. As one more UI update, we've had some great UI updates this expansion. We will have job icons next to things in the chat log and on player nameplates. A lot of the big UI updates this expansion have also been really great about having settings tied to it. So as we get into various things, if you like it the old way, they've kept that intact. Instead of trying to decide what the best way is, they've said, let's talk about if that was already the best way for some people, let's leave that and let's create another way that might be the best way for some other people. More and more options is better. It makes the menu a pain to navigate, so maybe one day they'll add a search function, but pretty great otherwise. So, as we continue miscellaneous updates, the transaction fee for items sold on the market board can now be incorporated into their total price, so you don't have to do the math on that. And then glasses and wing fashion accessories will now be displayed when engaged in battle in the overworld. The reason this is a big deal is because when we look at things like the graphic update, when we look at things like the term spaghetti code and all of that, keep in mind that the way they added wings and fashion accessories, glasses, parasols, and so on, is those were a piggyback off of a reuse of the mount system. That's why they could originally, it was limited on where they could be used and how they could be used, and it's why you had to manually remove them before charging into combat, because you had to basically dismount from your wings or parasol or whatever. And so as we start to have things like glasses and wing fashion accessories start to display while engaged in battle, that means those are separating into a better system. So that is them creating a new code base for that. Keep in mind that back in patch 4.4, I believe it was, we had a similar update to the companion system. Your Chocobo, when it was out, got a massive overhaul. It didn't change the progression of it, did not change the behavior of it, did not change anything in a way that was obvious to a player who played before that patch and after that patch. But that came right before we moved to a trust system. So that was them redoing the AI system on the back end, and that resulted. So this is something where they are cleaning things up on the back end, and it won't be immediately obvious, but this is something where the game is getting just better. So little updates like this, while they're not wildly noticeable to the average game player's experience on a day-to-day basis, they don't really remember the before time and after time of the change. It is a big deal, and this is that constant investment in the code base that tells us that this game's going to be around for a while, and they're continuing to invest in it. Items stored in a variety of locations can now be selected for casting glamours in an in-room. They've continued this entire expansion, constantly making efforts to improve the glamour system, whether you're glamoring your retainers or yourself. They've made that better and better and better and better. So very cool. The dresser and the armoire cannot interact with each other yet because they are just two completely different code bases worked on by different people at different times, but they are slowly closing the gap on things. Now, that is the generalized summary. Let's get into some actual parts, starting with the job adjustments. These are going to be primarily targeting the damage output within each role. We are not looking at any large-scale changes like when we saw Paladin have a massive adjustment. They are looking at things like making sure that all the tanks are in line with Dark Knight. They are looking at extending the radius of party buffs that are looking at things that increase damage dealt or reduce damage taken, as opposed to things like maybe healer range. He did jokingly confirm that ley lines will not be expanded to 30 yards. This will also improve the usability of certain job actions, just trying to keep those kind of relevant. They were thinking about implementing some Dragoon changes, but they've decided to have them now, so we'll see some of those right now. It doesn't mean we won't see more changes as we look forward to that. Usually those things take so long to be finalized. You're looking at not necessarily a Fanfest, but maybe something more like a media tour, which is about a month out from the expansion, when they can kind of have those tooltips pretty close to nailed down, and it's just potencies and stuff that adjust as much as possible. Improved use would include things like Paladin Execution of Atonement will no longer interrupt a combo, and the Dragoon jump and high jump will no longer affect your position, which means you would now be able to perform that while bound. a big adjustment. As we look into PvP, there's some changes to the ranking system. Keep in mind that we have two confusing terms for this, so we have to clarify this each time, just in case it's been a little bit. The PvP series is the thing that goes from patch to patch. The series is a big long thing with a reward. Basically, all forms of PvP contribute towards it, and that's what gives you the things like mounts and all of that. The season is the ranked crystalline conflict, and those are more often. So those are more tied to like the half patch cycle. So we kind of get like 2 seasons for every series. The series is wrapping up at the end of 6.3 here, and that's your last chance to acquire that Allegan watermelon thing. And so the big change here is to the season. Beginning in Season 7, the ranked content, players who place within the top 100 rankings of Diamond tier or above will receive additional rewards, including an item that will allow them to apply an effect to Hellhound weapons. And he shows some of that off here on his Black Mage, saying that don't worry, we have that for every single weapon. Very, very, very cool. Now, we also have some adjustments to Frontline, and these are a massive adjustment. Hopefully this is for the better and improves everything. First of all, we have a UI element that's going to change the way you look at score and the match time. The old one will be available if you prefer it. Adjustments to the limit gauge fill rate, damage dealt, damage taken on a per job will be changes to the existing Frontline modifiers. And then the Frontline daily challenge will also reward series experience, which will further encourage people to do the daily Frontlines. This is a great way to level alternate jobs. Keep in mind, they just have to be level 30 or above, have their job stone equipped. That gets them in. You don't even have to stay on that class, because in Frontlines you can change jobs. So the experience from the end goes to whatever job you want to do. So if you want to mess around in PvP on your warrior, but your warrior's at cap, and you need to level your ninja, you could hop in as ninja, switch over to warrior for whatever part of the match, including the entire match if you want, and the experience at the end will go to the job that needs it. It's a lot of experience. It's almost like a daily leveling roulette worth of experience. It's a lot. And then the Borderlands Secure is going to become temporarily unavailable, I assume, as they go through and navigate that. The big change here is that Shatter is going to move from a big complicated match a map that they think some people were kind of getting confused by or lost by or not having a great time with, to something much simpler, much more streamlined. And then we will see changes to the placement of Icebound Tomoliths. The data score adjustment has been adjusted pretty drastically. The Allegan Tomoliths have been removed. They think some people were kind of misunderstanding kind of the priority those should be, and the large and small ones will now respawn. The data acquired from defeating other players, however, has not changed. As long as you keep providing feedback, they will look at changing that. Now let's talk about the new trial. So we have the Voidcast Deus. He does take us in here and show us some of this queue. This is the normal mode that we can fall off of, so that's pretty exciting. He shows us a couple little mechanics. We see it kind of get fought here. There's some speculation where this is. As far as that speculation, I would say note that there is kind of a planet error. So as far as what you're speculating, kind of keep that in mind based on what you're guessing. And then also think about, what does that mean our 6.5 trial is? They moved to some fancier paper today. It was a little stiffer, a little bit wider, and he had a lot more of it. We saw a lot of gear today. I believe this first set of weapons, starting with the tanks and working our way through all of the jobs, is from our tomes, I believe. I'm not totally sure. Some of them have some nice glow effects. So you'll see some he added kind of a background to. Some have animations, he said, so the pictures don't really do them different. Do them a good respect there, or whatever the phrasing is. And these are from the 2019 design contest. Starting at 6.5, we'll start seeing things from the 2022 design contest. So as we go through the various jobs, we've now done the Fizz ranged. We're moving into the casters. After this, he'll show the dev developed portion, which is the gear. And so I know jokingly that Final Fantasy fans like to make fun of World of Warcraft for using the PTR to get player feedback instead of just having the devs do all the work. But I will note that in Final Fantasy XIV, when it comes to all the beautiful gear we have, they are more than happy to crowdsource a great bit of this. So now we see the actual gear play out with just a couple, jobs here, one from kind of each role. So not necessarily showing us every single one anymore because the role gear is shared. So this should be our tome gear, I believe. Now, let's talk about Pandemonium Abyssos. This is our 9 through 12 and our 9 through 12S. The arena here has some nice circles, has some, like, it's hard to see on this image here, but as he moved around, it looked like it had some cards and inner cards. So that'll kind of break that apart into its diagonals. And the first thing that happened when he ended up pulling is we lost that outer ring. So I have to wonder if we're going to have to shift in and out, and the size of the arena is going to change throughout the fight. But most importantly, he actually had a different kind of marker on him that we hadn't seen before. And so a new marker is something that's hopefully exciting. I don't think any of the images got caught here, but it was like a big flame marker, and it got bigger when he hit like with an ice thing. So there will be a little bit of an adjustment to the mechanic there, as opposed to when he showed the trial, it all looked like replays of mechanics we've seen in the past, just combined in maybe new and interesting ways. Remember that the Savage portion will be released 1 week late. The Unlock quest will not require a maintenance, so we won't have a maintenance there on the 29th as we go into that Savage race. And now we get to the biggest change. I did not think we would get any surprises out of the 6.4 live letter. I really thought maybe a little couple of UI updates, maybe some cool merch or something like that, but any big changes at this point are probably geared at the 0.5 patch and at the expansion, with the 0.5 patch having anything that they want to be stable in the expansion and try it out, and with the expansion being when they roll out large-scale system changes, and that all of that would be changed for the amount of surprises that they want to reveal at a FanFest. So if you know that you need to fill FanFest as a weekend with all surprises, don't burn any surprises now, because then you're just making it that much harder to fill the schedule with all surprises once we get there. But I was wrong. The Savage Raid reward changes are drastic. There are two big halves to this. The first is that we are going to adjust the treasure coffers awarded in Savage. We will now see that coffers will not reward duplicate armor pieces for the same slot. Body gear will be equipable on the 11th circle, and that we are moving to a single chest that will have both pieces in it instead of two small chests. I think that's probably an easier way to make sure the loot table doesn't have duplicates. The rewards will be reduced if there's 1 to 4 that have already completed, and then there will be no rewards if 5 or more. So that's not really a big change there. But here is where it really changes. Part 2. The Mythos exchange is dropping to 75% of the cost. We've got these tier 1 through 4 kind of tokens, and that will determine what you get to buy. And everything is 25% off. Everybody's got a 25% off coupon, regardless of slot. And that's a big change right there. And the Mythos 4s, those big old body pieces, can be converted down into a 1 through 3 for your alts at a 1-to-1 rate if after your first set, that's how you want to spend them, making it more likely that those don't kind of fall on the ground long term for anything there. So no big changes to the weapons, but as far as armor goes, gearing alts, this is a huge change. So for everybody that's willing to kind of have an extreme weapon and work on all the Savage gear, this is a massive change for gearing alts. Wildly wonderful. The raid gear looks beautiful. It's kind of themed off of that ice there. They did just show, I don't think they showed all of them, just kind of one from each role, but it looked really great. And that is the biggest change here. Absolutely massive. So the first set is tomes, weapon design gear from the devs. Perfect. So it's great to see the spare no expense extends all the way to the quality of their printing paper here and everything like that. As we start to see that work in, let's talk about Island Sanctuary. Island Sanctuary is something that they continue to update this expansion and want to continue to update into expansions in the future. For those of you who want to be optimal going to this patch, you've already kind of stopped burning things so that you're building up that 2 weeks of experience. You already stopped several days ago. And we will be getting new sanctuary ranks, visions, gathering areas, construction plots, item rewards, materials, craftables, crops, items, animals, handiworks, structures, things to buy, things to use, whatever. But most importantly, as far as an unpredicted change when we first got the system exposed to us, this is when they are adding support for outdoor furnishings to your hideaway. Furnishings can be placed anywhere near a structure. You can have up to 90 out at a given time. They do not allow you to have anything that has like a special set of rules applied to it, such as a striking dummy or a garden, unfortunately. And what's interesting about these is that as they demoed them, you can put 90 out anywhere in the blue, but you can store up to 120 kind of appearances, and they're kind of like a glamour in that they can be applied basically infinitely. So once you have one stored, or you kind of have it over here in your bag, you can place... He took one thing in his bag and he placed it over and over and over again. And so you could fill all 90 with just one item stamped 90 times. So that's a big deal. That also means that if there are people that thought that it would maybe massively spike the price on things, it probably won't. But it kind of means that it should be easy to decorate something fairly beautiful. I think that'll actually make it easier for things like a starlight tree or something like that to be something that you can go just fill out, even though you may not have bought 90 of those. And then we've got a couple of rewards tied to this. We expect a great deal more. It's also time for the housing contest. That's the 2019 portion. And 2022 will be added in 6.5 and beyond. Lots and lots of housing. And let's take a look at going to Authard for our second iteration of the Variant and Criterion dungeon. For anybody that did not follow this the first time in the Sildine Subterrane, let's go over kind of what a Variant dungeon is. It comes in 3 difficulties. The first is Variant, the kind of normal mode. This is playable in any number of players from 1 to 4, and the strength of everything will adjust accordingly. Similar to kind of a deep dungeon. There are no role restrictions, come in whatever combination you want. You get some extra bonus actions, kind of like a Bozja Zadnor type thing, to help fill out anything you need, like a heal or a res, if you happen to not bring somebody like that, if you need somebody to stand in as a tank or a healer. And you will have a bunch of different endings, up to like 12 different endings. This story will be told alongside an NPC, and these different endings will be something worth exploring as you make choices like going left or right. Do you turn a faucet? Do you not turn a faucet? Do you pick up an item? Do you not pick up an item? Whatever. You will be able to access these special variant actions and change them throughout the duty if you want to. And they're kind of restricted on roll, but really just so that like healers can't bring a cure or a raise, tanks can't bring a rampart, but there's no real reason to. And so you can bring those to whatever makes sense for you. And that is the Variant version. They show us who we're going through with here in a bit. I thought maybe it'd be Gosetsu, but I think that's just tied to the duty support system. And the level 90 harder mode is called Criterion. This immediately spikes the difficulty, and we jump to, it has to be 4 people. It has to be a tank, a healer, and 2 DPS. And if you don't have 4 people, they're happy to matchmake you. It is similar in visual. You are going to the same place, but now the route is fixed and the NPC will not be accompanying you. You will be restricted as far as no longer being able to res if you bring a healer or a red mage, and you will only be able to use the variant raise action, which will be the only variant action provided. It will be provided to all players, and you will get a limited use of it. If you guys wipe, all remaining enemies on the floor that you did will remain, but the ones you killed will stay dead. There is a Savage version. The Savage version, much like Delibrum Savage, changes it. Now we've moved to preformed only, and all forms of resurrection and all forms of variant action are prohibited. In addition to that, things get stronger. If you wipe, everything comes back. You are on a timer. Much, much harder. Question last time was, what are the rewards for that? It wasn't really worth the struggle to go through Savage for a lot of people. So is that the rewards? For anybody speculating who we'd get to go through, I got this wrong. We are going through with Hancock. So very exciting there. And they do show off that, of course, it will be 12 chapters once again. Last time there was a mount tied to that. So we'll have to see kind of what that ends up being. They take us inside and show us the 3 paths. And he pulls some things. And he shows us, he skips forward to the second boss, the boss that we always see, after stopping at like a beautiful area and showing us that he had a choice whether or not to engage with something. The second boss, he didn't really show any like crazy mechanics. He just showed 2 mechanics. I think he got hit by both of them, and then he stepped into the death wall, and that was it. He's got a couple of rewards shown, but not a lot, so nothing here that tells me this is for sure going to be an improvement. And then we've got our new crafted set. The new crafted set looks pretty casual. And this will be the set that we'll be taking into the raids on week 1 for anybody that wants to do that. So kind of a neat change of pace there. And then it is time to talk about the new mounts. There are more mounts and minions than this in this patch, most likely. I believe he confirms that. But for sure, we've got our little bed here. And then we've got our little goofy tadpole thing. And then we've got this lantern with a big long tongue. And then a mandragora. And my favorite, this little bunny robot from kind of the moon there, that when it flies, its little ears turn into a propeller. That was my favorite of the new mounts. I really liked it. We also got a bunch of new minions. He's not going to show us all of them, just some. Starting with a monkey. And moving on to a statue. And then to a ninja dog. I love the ninja dog. It's got a little symbol on its brow there. Lovely little sword. Absolutely adorable. And that's all they're willing to show us. It doesn't mean that's all there is. That's all they're willing to show us. Remember that we get 2 live letters per patch, but that can accelerate as we go into the post-point 4 season. And so let's talk about live letters for just a second. So I have a spreadsheet here with every live letter we've ever had. This is all of them. Now we get 2 live letters per patch, but occasionally we get more. Roughly halfway through the expansion, we usually get a 3rd live letter that's a little bit targeted at telling us something like a Q&A or something focusing on UI. We also get a 3rd one going into the point 1 patch, with the first one really being a chance for them to talk about all the stuff they wanted to talk about before the expansion, but would have been spoilery. So usually going into the point 1 patch, we talk about things like adjustments they want to make or things they wish they could have told us, but they're like, we didn't want to spoil anything. So these are the things we were excited about during development that we've kept to ourselves and now we're ready to tell you. The other time we get more than 2 is at the end of an expansion, when we can get additional live letters tied to Fanfest. And so as we look at kind of these Fanfest ones, it would not be shocking to roughly lay out at least 3 live letters before patch 6.5, and between 6.5 and 7.0, lay out at least 3 more. It would not shock me if we have anywhere from 4 to possibly on the high end, I'd say 7 live letters between now and 7.0. If I hop over to my patch prediction timelines, I believe that we're looking at, so we know Fanfest is here on the 28th, which means we'll have a live letter on the 29th. And then we will have our patch, which I predict is sometime around the middle of October. And then I bet we have another live letter at Fanfest, as well as 2 live letters independent of that going into 7.0. Would not shock me if we have another live letter in January at that Fanfest. That could just be one of the other 2. I don't know. I think that puts the earliest the expansion could fall in March of next year. Could easily be later, especially if they surprised us with something big like a 0.6 or something like that. But it could just be later in general. It's hard to say. This is about the earliest that I could see it being. And so that's kind of where all of that falls. Keep in mind that the last patch for the expansion will have MSQ, and I believe that's going to launch in December timeframe. So as we prepare to go to this, remember that these are digital. I am being told that I scrolled too fast and I skipped over the Dapper Otter. I can't believe I missed that gentleman. Was too polite to say anything himself. And as we look at these, remember that these will be available digital, minus the concerts. The concerts, unfortunately, because the Primals do play music that Square Enix does not have just unbelievably exclusive rights to distribute freely, the concerts historically have not always been able to be broadcast. They broadcast them during the digital one, but I think that took special agreements and all of that that were made possible through 2020. So the broadcast will end each night, and then at the end of the first night, attendees will get to stay late for a concert if they so choose. At Fanfest, there will be a chance to play this trial. We speculate that this might be a 7.x trial because they say that it have a chance to try it early. So there's some people wondering kind of the Gilded Araya, what does that tell us? What does this spoil for us narratively? So we'll just have to see. For any of you that want to see the patch note reading from them, this will be in Japanese only, so we don't typically cover this. That'll be on the 22nd. They didn't really have any big merch push this time. They just talked about the immersive game pack for a while and then reminded you that Yoshipi is pretty excited that Yoshida-san, his other personality there, is releasing his other game, Final Fantasy XVI, on June 22nd for anybody that wants to pre-order that. It has gotten easier to gear up in Savage, so he hopes that you have time to experience other games this year. He was actually playing Zelda right before the patch went before the live letter went live. So of course he does hope you enjoy Final Fantasy XVI and just all of the other great games that are out there. And that's really it. That's basically everything that we went over. All of this is done through the translation Discord over on the Final Fantasy XIV Reddit. Anytime you're on our streams, you can always type !translate if you want to get over here. They keep it in their translations tab, but they also do, there's a number of other things going on. The Final Fantasy XIV Reddit is by far the largest single community that I know of for Final Fantasy XIV outside of the official one. It is the largest kind of third-party run community. It is absolutely massive. And so there are all sorts of different people in it, and it's a great place to kind of get a feel for a wide variety of views from the community. Go enjoy the trailer. Go enjoy the time. This has been an exciting time for our live letter 77. I will see you guys for live letter 78 at Fanfest, where I will be there live. Brian will be covering it here on Twitch. And then I will be back to doing this for 79 and so on. Be sure to be ready for the patch on the 23rd. Those of you Raiders, good luck on the 30th. And remember that for everything that is not delivered on the 23rd, that is coming in patch 6.45, which I predict will be July 18th, just in time to kind of get a taste of it and clear it before any of you have to get on a plane, train, automobile to head to FanFest for anybody that got tickets and is lucky to go get to do that. I hope to meet many of you there. I'm sorry they didn't have enough tickets for everybody to get to go, but I'd love to meet with you guys at FanFest. Thank you guys, and thanks for everybody that dropped subs and hung out here on the streams, on the YouTube side, on the Twitch side today. I appreciate all the support. It absolutely makes this possible. You guys have a good one.